basically, the best way to start is to understand, what area in your life you would like to experience some sort of shift, right? What, is the biggest interest that you have around seeing something change, And obviously there's many different avenues that you could address, but I think that the most important ones are the ones that we feel are the most present. And so if you took a moment to feel into, what in your life, it's best to think about, your own relationship with the world around you. What would you like to experience and change with how you're experiencing your life?
Yeah, if Aladdin gave you the magic lamp, what would be your first wish?
Man, there's multiple that come to mind. I think because I think of my relationship, I'd like to be more confident in communication in the relationship, but I also think of just when I'm turning it on myself, I feel a person or two maybe things that I've worked for that maybe haven't turned out the way, like I put so much energy and effort and love and into that it seems like I could climb up career-wise the ladder and then just back to the bottom, climb up. So I guess inner confidence that what I feel and believe and think is okay. If that makes sense. That I'm constantly, maybe it's because I work in a very male-dominated industry that I'm constantly measuring myself on that and not allowing myself to claim, yes, I am good at this or I am confident at that. So to believe in myself and not constantly be squashed and silenced and move on.
And felt inferior to.
Yes,
Yeah,
I definitely feel not good enough because I'm not what every other pilot looks like, I guess. Is what,
Yeah.
What's going on, right? So what I think that we should work on is the inferior complex.
Yeah, that's
Feeling
exactly
like
what I'm
you're
getting at.
less than and unable to more or less be seen, be valued, be respected, not only as an equal, but then also, in that perspective of being able to go up or further,
But there's always a limit for you. You can go so and so far, and then you're being pushed back. You can go so far, and you have to start all over again. It's kind of like as if you're like in this bubble, and what you're seeking is on the other side, but you haven't been able to break that bubble and get out of it.
And I feel like it's my fault. I feel that I'm just not good enough, or there's something I said or did wrong when I feel that I'm a good person with good intentions and integrity. But if I keep falling on my face, then something's not right. Then the only way to turn is, okay, what am I doing?
And that is the 96% or 94% of the subconscious mind that believes something else. Your conscious mind believes that you're really worthy and deserving of having, what you're choosing to have, what you're envisioning to have, but your subconscious mind is telling you a different story. And because it's a different story and it's so powerful, it's running the show. Where you're like, I consciously feel like I deserve this because I'm a good person, but your subconscious mind might hold guilt or blame or shame or fear or some kind of contracts in place that are not allowing you.
I don't like it
program.
subconscious.
So that's what we're going to uncover what is there.
The subconscious is that program, right? That was in a way pre-programmed before your birth, and the conscious mind isn't even aware that there's a computer program there operating. It thinks, it sees this and it sees that, and I should have that, and that sounds good, and that resonates with me. But the computer program's like, but the reality is that I was programmed by your experiences. And because I was programmed by your experiences, you need to uncover what experiences are still holding this program that is making your life operate from this particular perspective, right? So that's what we use this style of work to do, is to uncover what those experiences were that programmed your being to believe a certain way, right? So yeah, the inferior complex is really good. So I want to ask you a few questions. Where were you born?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. And where were you raised?
Kind of all over.
Yeah, kind of all over.
Illinois, suburbs of Chicago, a year and a half in Oklahoma City, and the rest, I'd say grew up in Kansas.
Okay.
Very small town, Kansas, yeah.
Okay. But you were born in North Carolina, and then you were basically taken out of that environment.
My
quickly.
grandparents came to get me when I was 6 months or 7 months
Okay.
old. They flew to North Carolina, Cherry Point, Mueller Station, and then flew me back. And I lived with them. I was not with my mom and dad. I lived with them for, I don't know,
Okay.
the rest of the year.
Okay. So I'm just trying to get a little background on how your soul came and which location your soul came in, because you expressed that you, for some reason, feel responsible, like you failed to achieve something or do something good enough, which is keeping you feeling like, if I could just get them to see that I'm sorry, or that I can do better, then I'll be able to, move up or in a way be forgiven. So what I'm already getting is that there is some aspect of you that is holding guilt, feeling that you're guilty of doing something that makes you then believe you're inferior because of that.
Yeah.
So let's start there.
Yeah, what I'm also feeling is that it's like a commitment, that guilt is a commitment to yourself. I have to suffer to redeem myself. But because you're holding the belief that you have to suffer, you will continue to suffer until you clear the belief. It's not like the suffering will actually bring you the redemption. It's the clearing of the belief and the clearing of the obligation to suffer
makes sense,
that will
because
liberate you.
40-some years of suffering, it's like, that's not working, so something else has to.
Yeah, forgiveness.
Yeah.
And often, when as we'll go into it, you'll realize that the root of this guilt isn't coming from this lifetime. It's coming from a previous lifetime. So you're feeling guilty for something that has already happened a long time ago in the past. How can you ever be forgiven by any individual in this lifetime that would even, for one, have memory of that you're guilty of that? Let alone be able to bring any relevance to this lifetime for something that occurred however many lifetimes in the past. Does that make sense? So in this context, there's no environment that has been made anymore for you to be externally forgiven, because you are completely removed from the original environment as well as the original individuals. You may still know some of them in this lifetime, but there's no environment for you to resolve that externally anymore, because it's no longer that lifetime. So this brings us to the reality of understanding that the only person you ever need to forgive is yourself. And being able to utilize this work will take us right back to the point where the trauma was created and with who it was created with, for you to be able to do the forgiveness that you're looking for, which is what we call soul resolution. So basically the whole context of this work is soul resolution work, for you to be able to receive and experience and first and foremost witness the forgiveness of yourself taking place, and recognizing that you hold the authority and that no one else gives that to you but you.
And it's also interesting, you spoke about how you had the challenging upbringing, whereas other people had it much easier, at least financially. And our soul actually chooses like a specific environment for us to grow up as a reflection of what's important for us to resolve. So when you look at your relationship with your parents or grandparents, other people around you as you're growing up, or even the financial situation, your economic situation, it's all signs of what your soul is actually looking to resolve.
Wow. My soul
And
has a lot to resolve.
Yeah. And a lot of us are
Absolutely.
old souls, so we've been carrying these programs for many, many incarnations.
Well, we're
There's
talking
a lot of accumulation,
countless lifetimes.
So it's like, we've been piling up and piling up and piling up and piling up. And looking at even the history of the world, there hasn't been you know, a place where we have gone into the resolution. Like over the past millennia of lifetimes, we've been just like piling up the dirt.
So as you're speaking, I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that this has been building for a very long time.
Yeah.
So that's speaking to me. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I'm like consciously aware that, okay, yeah, this makes sense to do this work, and then I'm also aware that this is going to be difficult. This is, for some reason, I feel like there's so much that
Yeah.
is difficult.
But what's cool is that it's like a snowball.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you give it a couple pushes, and all of a sudden it starts to gain momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And so, where the opposite, it's like to create this karma was much heavier than having to uncreate it. You know, winding something up tight is much more difficult than letting it unwind.
Yeah, and it's also when we do these, you know, when we do the work, and you will see that when we go in, there's often what we call a root lifetime, where where something really specific happened that set the course for all the future lifetimes, and that energy weaves through like a red thread. So you don't have to correct every single lifetime where that pattern happened. What you need to do is find out what the root is, what was the experience, what is the trauma I'm holding, what are the obligations, contracts, vows, belief structures that I'm holding, and clear that. And it's kind of like the foundation of a building, so that's the root lifetime, all these other lifetimes are built upon that foundation. You pull out the foundation and the whole building will crumble.
And hopefully you learn not to let that start
Well,
again.
that's the next thing,
that's
is
the
once
next thing.
everything is removed and it's all cleared and eliminated, then we integrate what's called the soul lesson. What was your soul needing to learn that for whatever reason it wasn't mature enough to understand in that current situation? It needed to recreate this one, and then it needed to recreate this one, and then over and over and over again it keeps recreating the same trauma with a different circumstance and a different environment, but the same underlying theme, right? Until finally you get to a point where you're mature enough and you go, stop. I'm not going to recreate this again. I'm actually understanding that this is a cycle I've been trapped in. And instead of making the same mistake and doing it the way I've always done, I'm going to do the opposite, right? And so in that context, when we integrate the soul lesson, your soul finally realizes what the universe, so to speak, was trying to communicate to you. You get it. And once you get it, you're free of ever having to learn that lesson again, because you learned the lesson. Once you learn the lesson, it's finished. It's finished forever. And that's what the most
Where do
profound
I
thing is.
sign?
Well, I will show you.
Okay, like this sounds exactly like what I need, and it's a blessing that you guys, like, we met in the way we did, because I don't know that I would have found this. I would have probably suffered yet another lifetime. I don't think I would have found a way, because it's not, to me, natural. There are feelings that are natural, but it's not natural to me how to fix it,
Yeah.
clear it, how to, I mean, even with my praying and soul and asking for forgiveness or direction or a better situation, it just doesn't, it can only take you so far.
Yeah, well, you know, that's the beautiful thing, is that if you found yourself in that place praying and asking, you know, for support and direction, you know, that also creates that magnetic pull to have something appear in your life, like us, that is responding to that call, right? Now, it may be coming through us, but the reality is that you're the one that created that. You're the one that planted the seed, saying, hey, I would like to see this seed watered and start to grow. And so energies are showing up to help show you how to support and nurture that seed that you want to see grow. But it's really an aspect of you. It's coming from you. It's coming through you. And in the same process, you know, Kristie and I are in that as well in our life, where we're asking, consciously, intentionally, putting all of our energy towards the topic of wanting to resolve what we're carrying. So it is automatically, life is going to automatically continue to navigate us into other karmic situations with other souls that we have contracts with from the past that we're ready to resolve. And in this way, you know, our life has become this mission without really knowing it or needing to put a true identification on what and where and how we're actually doing it. But our life has become this journey of going back and retracing and uniting with the souls that we've held karma with in the past, and able to release it.
Wow.
And so it's no coincidence that we've met. You were feeling it, more, generally within yourself, just this feeling, this need, and we're feeling it more consciously, intentionally, and specifically, right? And so, because we carry connection from past lives, the three of us, is why we're once again sitting here together to basically
That's why I was
unresolve it.
comfortable when I first met you. We met on the street, just passing, and most people would just see maybe my state and just kind of keep walking, but you're like, hey. And we sat there in the middle of the street, on some sort of concrete block and just spoke. And had, you must have known, I felt like, that I needed to speak to somebody. I needed to, I was struggling, and you saw that, and you were very kind, and just, which made it, comfortable. I was immediately comfortable with you guys when we met up. When I was walking over and coming back to met you guys. So
know each other.
But it's good that you guys are open or see that, because I haven't met anybody else in my life that sees it or opened or.
Yeah, well, that's what that's the shift that happens in all of our lives when we want to no longer want to be deluded by the illusion of this life, or the superficial expressions, or what I call the evanescent aspects of life, the things that just are just kind of on the surface, right? That come and go like reflections of light. There's a point where you get to where you want to uncover all of it, get to the root of all of it. No longer be deluded by what this is, and you want to finish it. Finish what you started, finish what you left unresolved, finish everything that you possibly can. And the moment that you shift direction from walking forward thinking I'm this individual and I want to create this perfect, beautiful life, and I have all the opportunity in the world to do so, and you flip it and say, actually, I've been here forever. And instead of going into another dream reality where I'm pretending I'm this idea, this identity, I want to go back to all these other identities and clean up the mess that I created. That is when you become open. You become open to seeing everything in your environment, every person in your environment that is also open or ready for reception, as an opportunity to resolve something, because the only reason anybody is in your environment or in your field is because you're carrying some connection with them. Otherwise, they would not be there. It's like, if you think about all the most beautiful things that you've ever experienced in your life, positive, fun, and friendly, all the best birthday parties you ever had, they kind of all blur together, right? Because there's nothing that really sticks with you. It's easy, it's light, it's free. It's already free. But the things that stick with you are those points that were traumatic, that were challenging, that were difficult, right? And in this way,
that wasn't the case.
the reality is that it's nice that it is the case, because then you can release the whole identity that got you caught up in the idea of needing to believe this to be true. And the only reason that it's in your life as a pain or as a thorn is because it's not true, and you believed at one time that it was. So the idea of having these thorns is to be able to go in and pull the thorn out and say, this thorn isn't real, this thorn isn't true. And now I realize that what I thought this actually was is not that at all, and no way do I want that.
You guys might have picked up a porcupine with a lot sticking out. So.
Well, we're all porcupines. We're all porcupines. We all carry a huge amount of thorns from our own journey. And the beautiful thing that is that the moment that you realize that you're carrying these thorns, it's now your beautiful gift to be able to learn how to pull them out. That you yourself are responsible for your own porcupine, right? And that it's your role to be able to find the ultimate freedom that you can by plucking out as many thorns as possible and resolving it once and for all. And once those thorns come out and you successfully resolve them, they will never come back. And that's the beautiful thing, is that true freedom begins to awaken in your life to a point where at first it feels like, one step at a time, but a few years down the road, all of a sudden you're noticing leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
And when you get to the point where you're leaping and bounding, there's so much joy, there's so much freedom, there's so much openness that you really realize how different your reality has become from where you started from in just one lifetime. Thinking about how many countless lifetimes it took you to get so full of thorns to the point you can't even move in any direction without being triggered.
That's where I feel like
or
I
pain.
am. Yeah, I mean, I'm like, I don't know that I can handle any more. Like,
I'm so
there's
full.
no space, and really thinking and being true, honest with myself. I feel like my biggest issue is that I don't feel that I can be loved, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
You're worthy of being loved.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you deserve love.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
deserve it.
Yeah, well, good. I mean,
We're
that's,
gonna look at that.
the most,
whole inferior.
yeah.
Like that's an aspect gonna come up.
Well, the most,
You're like-
the most powerful tool that we can have doing this work is honesty.
Mhm.
That is going to be your greatest friend. The more honest you can be with yourself, the more profound your transformations can be.
I feel like that is not an issue with me.
Yeah.
I'm pretty,
Yeah.
just say it like it is.
Mhm.
And I would never be, my friend said, a good brown noser.
Yeah.
Because I just can't.
Yeah, and then I also want to share with you, maybe I'll wait until you sit down. What is the beauty about this work? Because right now what we're going to do is like, we're even going to connect events that might have happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, during your childhood, to past lifetimes. But the beauty of this work is when we're in a situation where we feel like there's a challenge happening, or we're like, we want to accomplish something, but it's not moving forward. We're feeling obstacles in the way. We can go in and directly look at, why is this happening? Why do I have this struggle coming up? Why is this person showing up in my life that is giving me a hard time? Why do I have this boss? Why is this happening? And you don't even, because we're so taught of like, that's just the way life is. You can't do anything about
You
it.
just
Life
accept
is
what you
not
can
fair.
change, and
Programs.
you
Yeah.
accept what you can
Yeah.
change, and you deal
Yeah.
with what you can't.
Yeah. And with these tools, you can look at any situation in your life that is challenging you, that is creating obstacles or some kind of what we would call a negative emotion, like anger or frustration. And like, I know that this circumstance, this person's situation is a mirror of what's going on in my subconscious mind.
Mhm.
What is present? Why am I experiencing this right now? And what is it connected to? What is the root cause? What is the root lifetime? What is the root experience? Okay, let's clear it.
That would be
Move on.
amazing, because there's things that I'm aware of that I just don't have the ability to get past.
Yeah.
Let's uncover the truth of the
Yeah.
situation. Why am I banging my head up against the wall here?
Yeah.
Why does it feel like when I walk in this direction, I'm being completely blocked? I just
Mhm.
can't go forward at
Mhm.
all, right? But my heart wants me to go forward. My soul wants me to go forward.
Yes.
But for some reason, all the external environment is communicating to me is that no, you can't. It's
Yeah,
blocked.
yeah.
Mhm.
So how to uncover the truth of that scenario and see how you're actually holding the block within you that is projecting and creating the external world outside of you blocked.
Mhm. Yeah.
The moment you clear that, you realize the passage is completely open. And that's what's profound, is that nobody really understands on a significant level, nobody meaning the majority of the population has no idea that the environment that they're experiencing outside of them is actually being created from inside.
Mhm.
And that the outside world is like a hologram. You try to maneuver in it and change things inside of a hologram, and nothing really changes.
Okay,
You can
yeah.
move this and that and that and this, but you turn over here and the same thing remanifests and creates itself. Because the projector is actually projecting the film that's inside of you. The story is inside of you. So how to turn around and look at the story where it's originally being created from, and not what's being projected outside of you on the wall.
Mhm.
So this work teaches you that the true story is within, and the moment you change that film, the projection of what you see in the world outside of you changes.
Oh, I like that.
And that is what is so
Please.
amazing about
I like
consciousness.
that. Yeah.
And life becomes the most beautiful journey of discovery, instead of this feeling of victimhood or being trapped or stuck in limitation. And everything just begins to open with this perspective of realizing the true love and beauty that is here, that is surrounding you, has always been here. It's just I wasn't looking at it in the true perspective of what it is.
Yeah, I think that's why I seek it out. I feel like I know that there's a better way. I don't have the tools on my own to break through it and figure it out, but I'm consciously aware that I don't want to keep repeating and being in this negative, no matter how much positive thinking I do, no matter how much of that negative recorder in my head playing and changing that, it just doesn't change.
It doesn't make the physical different.
Yeah.
And I know to my core that I'm bigger and better than what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And I just
Yeah.
keep, like, here I am again.
Yeah. But it's also what we've been finding is that's the problem with the law of attraction or just doing positive affirmation, because you're bringing the positive in, awesome, great.
Yeah.
But the negative that is running your subconscious mind is still present. And in order for, it's kind of like trying to plant seeds somewhere where everything is overgrown with weeds. There's like no room for it. You need to weed out the garden. You need to get the stuff out, the old, the negative, the burdensome, in order to have the freedom to bring in the positive affirmations.
You gotta create space.
That makes sense.
You gotta create space. So you gotta till the soil, right?
Yeah.
You gotta break apart the old foundation. I mean, how can you plant a seed in solid concrete?
Yeah.
You can't. You need a jackhammer to first break apart the foundation.
You guys are my jackhammers then.
We're going to teach you how to use the jackhammer.
Okay, good.
You're gonna have jackhammer.
And then help you understand that, that foundation has been paved over long before. So how do you access the fertile soil underneath for anything to grow new and not just run off like water down the sewer?
That makes sense. Yeah. All the sunshine I'm trying to bring to that concrete is not.
Just heat that sucker up and making it more hot.
Because it's not growing,
Yeah.
Because it's
That makes
light.
sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
So shall we get started?
Yes,
Should
we
we?
can.
I feel like let's do some muscle testing first, with a couple of things that are present.
Okay.
So, which is also really nice for you to see. Okay, this is what I believe right now, even if it's subconsciously. And then at the end, after the clear, we can test again, and then you will see
if I've changed.
what has shifted.
So what you mean is you want to start with not muscle testing, but you want to start with some belief testing.
Yes, and belief testing.
Okay.
Yes.
She wants to test the core beliefs that you have currently
Mm-hmm.
in order to see what the foundation is.
Mm-hmm.
So that we can go and break apart that foundation, and then at the end of the session show you that foundation has not only been broken apart, but it's been replaced by what you want.
Ooh.
And that is when the magic
This
happens.
sounds really good. You guys are miracle workers.
You are the miracle. And we're just teaching you how to create those miracles.
Okay. Yeah, like you said. Yeah.
All right,
Sweet.
so let's do some muscle testing. So we'll do what we did before.
Okay.
And I'll like this. So say the birth from this body is Betty Sue.
The birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
The birth from this body is Minnie Mouse.
The birth name of this body is Minnie Mouse.
It's not.
It's so crazy to me.
And let's just test a couple of beliefs that we already uncovered are present, that you even stated yourself, to show you, what is here, and then, just calibrate. So say, I am inferior to others.
I am inferior to others.
Say, the birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
The birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
Oh, interesting. It opened a little bit.
Well, she might not be inferior to all others,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's what we need to look at.
Mm-hmm.
So say I am inferior to men.
I am inferior to men.
Birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
The birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
Good.
So, all right. Let's say that in certain circumstances I feel inferior to others.
in certain circumstances, I feel inferior to others.
That's
Okay.
very strong.
Okay, so it's very strong. So what it's showing is it's not a general term. You're not just inferior to everybody, but there's something very specific to what you feel inferior to, which is what we need to, this is how we can utilize muscle testing to identify exactly what you feel inferior to, right? Which will help us then identify exactly the pinpoint of in time and what, soul experience did you have, right? What are the details? So that's what muscle testing will help us do, is it helps us with the detective work and uncovering the
because I
specifics.
feel like if you were just asking me, I could lie to you, but I'm not able to.
Yeah.
This is like
This is
the lie
involuntary,
detector.
Yeah,
Yeah, like, exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We
So-
wasted a lot of money on that program.
So, what I want to test is, I'm worthy of receiving love.
I'm worthy of receiving love.
That's like, no.
I kind
no,
of knew
no,
that was
no.
gonna happen, but
Yeah.
I was like, I think I was trying to hold it together a little more.
That's good. Yeah, I thought it was a
I
little
want it
stronger
to be
there.
true, yeah.
Yeah, well, good.
Yeah.
Good. It's important to try to,
Yeah.
try to stick to the statement and see what's really there.
Yeah.
Is there a charge there? There's no charge there. There's no charge around I'm worthy of love. Okay, good. Now we've uncovered that that's a belief system that is associated to some sort of trauma that you experienced in a past life. It was most likely recreated and affirmed in this lifetime to continue to support that belief, right? So we can dive a little bit deeper into uncovering that, because I'm sure that the inferior and the love
It's
are,
connected,
are
yeah.
one and the same.
Yeah.
Why don't we do a little bit more energy around the inferior? I am inferior to my superiors.
I am inferior to my superiors.
I'm inferior to my colleagues.
I'm inferior to my colleagues.
That's even stronger.
Mhm. So let's just test this. The root lifetime where I have felt inferior to my colleagues comes from a lifetime here on earth.
The root lifetime where I have felt inferior to my colleagues comes from a lifetime here on earth.
Say the root lifetime where I have felt inferior to my colleagues comes from a lifetime before earth.
The root
Lifetime
lifetime
where I felt
inferior
inferior to my colleagues.
comes from another lifetime.
Pre-earth.
Pre-earth
Before Earth.
lifetime.
Okay, no. Good. So that tells us that it took place here,
On this planet.
sometime on this planet, within this timeline of Earth and your time here,
Okay.
right? And for me, when you say colleagues and you say, superior and inferior, it does make me feel like some sort of, military complex in a way, where there is a superior and giving orders down, right? Now it could be a much more ancient system that isn't modeled off of the current military system, but it sounds like a system where there was somebody at the top giving orders. So we could go back in time and think, there's multiple circumstances and situations in which someone could be giving orders and you're inferior to the one who's giving those orders.
Yeah, I feel like there's an authority above you
Okay.
that was giving orders, and it put your authority outside of yourself, where you still feel under the influence of that authority, and instead of being in your own energy, where you still have to obey, where you still have to fulfill certain orders.
Now, Kristie and I usually, we don't like to mess around, we like to get right to the point.
That's good.
And
I like this.
what we found is that a lot of things root themselves in lifetimes that are within Atlantis.
Okay.
It goes back that far. And so we usually like to just test to see, is it coming from a lifetime that you had in Atlantis, or was it a lifetime, some in like the Middle Ages, so to speak?
Yeah.
Right?
And I feel like because I wasn't able to repeat that very well, I hope that didn't mess up the test.
No,
Okay.
it's okay. As long as you
Okay.
can,
Okay.
as long as you can repeat it. You can also say, what Jiva said or what Kristie said.
Okay.
If it's a really long sentence.
You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes it goes so deep into the psychological complex of our system that it's almost hard to repeat things because you start to get almost disoriented.
I felt disoriented.
Even
yeah,
being-
as we were saying.
Yeah.
As we start
I can feel
to
that,
address and uncover these key traumas, we start to go in and find them, it starts to make you feel sometimes a little disoriented.
Yeah, that's a really
Yeah.
good way to, because
Yeah.
I feel like I'm very good at like remembering rote
Mhm.
things.
Yeah.
And you said that and I was struggling.
Yeah.
And I was
which
like,
is
what
a
is
good
this?
sign because we're hitting something.
Okay.
You know, if it's easy, we're like, yeah, it's correct, but we're still up here.
Yeah.
But if you cannot even comprehend or like have a hard time, you're like, oh, we're hitting, something that's been deeply hidden.
Yeah, we're getting the
It's
goods
good. It's a
here.
good thing. It's a good sign.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's test Atlantis,
yeah.
huh?
Mhm.
Let's just do your birth name again. The birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
The birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
Very good. The root lifetime for me feeling inferior to my colleagues comes from Atlantis.
The root lifetime for me feeling inferior to my colleagues comes from Atlantis.
It comes from before Atlantis.
It comes from before Atlantis.
It comes from after Atlantis.
It comes from after Atlantis.
It comes from Sumeria.
It comes from Sumeria.
Ah, yeah. It's not 100% super strong. Yeah, but there is
I feel like what happened was
something.
there was a piece that took place there,
Mhm.
and then it consolidated in a lifetime after
Yeah.
Sumeria.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It was like, what? This is the truth? And you're like, no, that can't be. Is that the truth? And then
Mhm.
the next lifetime, it was like, yeah, this is the truth.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Like the seed was planted and then it started coming to fruition in the following lifetime.
So
Which makes sense because we don't always face what we should in lifetimes, right? So I didn't
Well,
hear it.
sometimes it can take multiple lifetimes for something to sort of develop.
Mhm.
Like this was stage 1, and this is stage 2, and this is stage 3.
Yeah.
Once stage 3 hit, now it's complete, finalized, and the belief is in place.
Okay.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Sometimes it takes multiple lifetimes for things to kind of marinate and to become what they are.
Okay.
It kind of can be a collection of things. But what I'm sensing, what I'd like to test is to see if it has something to do with battle, with being a warrior, with receiving. I feel inferior to my colleagues who are fellow soldiers.
Okay. I feel inferior to my colleagues who are fellow soldiers.
I feel inferior to colleagues who aren't soldiers.
I feel inferior to colleagues who are not soldiers.
Yeah.
Oh, it's army,
So
it's
it's
like military.
directly related
Yeah.
to
Whoa.
battle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that interesting? Yeah.
But it's pre-military, meaning it's more. I'm seeing horses
Yeah, me too.
and carts.
Mhm.
and-
And spears and
Yeah,
shields.
that kind of stuff.
Like
Sumeria
warrior.
had that going on, as well as
Other countries, yeah.
into the
Mhm.
Middle Ages and such, with knights and swords and all that.
Mhm.
So there's a battle complex there.
Mhm.
So let's just tune in for a second, Kristie, because
Yeah.
we can just take a moment to look into the Akasha
Okay.
and just see some more of the images that we're getting around it. Because we've just been purely basically utilizing muscle testing
Which
to
is what's in me that I did
identify.
not even know.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
very, and I feel, I don't know if you probably can feel, I don't know if you can see, but the strength in each.
It's just boom.
Yeah.
It's either
Yeah.
there or not there, or
Or
there's
it's-
something a little bit there.
Yeah.
Yeah. With
Yeah,
Samira's
yeah.
like, yeah, it's something there, but it's not.
It didn't totally take
Yeah.
root there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I'm gonna close my eyes and I'm gonna go into the Akasha and see what I'm being shown,
Okay.
what I need to reveal to you.
Okay.
Yourself this.
Do you need me to do anything?
You can just close your eyes too.
Okay.
Chill, yeah. Mhm.
Tune into that energy a little bit and see if you can uncover anything.
Yeah, I'm bouncing back between Greece and Egypt.
There's quite a few lifetimes I'm seeing that were sort of recreated around this drama.
Does orange mean anything to either of you? That's, keeps
That image keeps coming, color
color.
orange. Yeah,
Or
go
orange.
with it. Keep going with it. I feel like I already have all the information, honestly. But I want you to test her.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's do some more muscle testing with what Jivananda discovered. See what you discovered. Birth name of this body is Betty.
The birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
Very good.
I was given a task from my superior lieutenant,
I was given a task from my superior lieutenant,
and I failed to succeed in that task.
and I failed to succeed in that task.
Birth
Birth name of this body.
The birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
I'm gonna tell you, yeah, so the reason you opened up is because we're starting to get there.
Yeah.
And what we call it flipping. A lot of times we didn't hit it exactly on the head, because you didn't do a complete full flip is what we call it. But you can flip, and what happens is the moment that we hit the trauma directly, you'll all of a sudden flip. And yes is no and no is yes, and you're no longer your birth name, you're some whatever other name.
And it's the first time I felt tears.
Yeah, exactly.
Something.
It's
Yeah.
the strength is
Emotional.
opening, and the thing is that it's sort of a defense mechanism. It's what we call flipping, in order to be able to not have to avoid the
Oh, yeah.
trauma.
That
Don't go into
that
it.
sounds like
Go past it. Go past it. It's all of us.
Yeah,
It's
but
all of
also
us.
just because the subconscious mind likes what it knows, even though what it knows might be negative, it likes to hold on to what it knows. So by us, pinpointing the trauma, the subconscious mind is feeling challenged, it's feeling threatened. So it's like, oh, let's just give you a different answer.
Yeah. Well, another thing that it knows is that it's been buried, and it wants to keep it buried. It doesn't want it to surface. And so if it's able to trick you in bypassing it, it'll do that.
Is that because it has its own energy that it wants? Or why would it want to trick? Why would it want to stay?
The subconscious, well, once again, it's usually just because of trauma, right? If a bully, beat you up one day, and you felt really, wounded emotionally by it, the last thing in the world you're going to want to go do, feeling wounded and emotional, is go confront the bully.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so instead of having to confront the subconscious bully, which is just representing the trauma that you're holding there, it's going to flip and confuse you to make you feel like, oh, I don't have to deal with this. This is already dealt with. I'm good. It's a way to avoid having to deal with it one last time. But since it's subconscious, we know that it's not actually what you want, and what you want is to go into it. And so, it's interesting. This is just the behavior that we, as human beings, exhibit once we have buried something that's been so deep for so long on the soul level. And we notice that this is a natural response when you start to get close. It's like a hot potato. The moment you start to get hot, the body's like, oh, no, don't find me.
Yeah.
I want to stay hidden.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So it's important to just ground for a moment.
Yeah.
And just feel your energy being in your body and dropping back down into the earth below you. And just imagine some energy from your body dropping down into the surface of the earth and kind of connecting like a little tree, sending out some roots that go into Mother Gaia, and feeling the support of her connection, and the life that she's offering, the earth-giving mother love that she provides through her unconditional support and elements. And just feel that connection for a moment. We can come back and test it again now.
I feel like I'm back. That feels really
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah, good.
I'm present.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So we're going to test this again. We like to recalibrate every time. Birth name of this body.
The birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
And
The birth name of this body is Daffy Duck.
The birth name of this body is Daffy Duck.
good.
I'm glad you knew that, body. Don't fail me.
Subconscious mind knew that.
Yes.
In the root lifetime, where I felt inferior to my colleagues, I was given an order in which I failed to achieve, which resulted in the death of some of my colleagues.
The root lifetime where I was given an order which I failed to achieve
Resulted
resulted
in
in
the death
death
to some of my colleagues.
to some of my colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, that
Wow.
was a jump. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know how to
you went
explain
like
that.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we're
Yeah.
we're
once
gonna have
again.
to ask that again because I felt, I don't know.
Yeah, we can do it in multiple parts.
Okay.
Mhm.
Let's just do it this way. The root lifetime where I felt inferior to my colleagues was a lifetime where I was a warrior.
The root lifetime where I felt inferior to my colleagues was when I was a warrior.
Mhm.
Okay. In that lifetime, I was given an order and I failed, and it resulted in the death of some of my
In that
fellow
lifetime,
warriors.
I was given an order and I failed, and that resulted in the death of some of my colleagues.
Birth name?
The birthing of this body is Betty Sue.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
coming
you're
apart.
flipping
Yeah,
again.
you're flipping. Which means like
Told
you're
you,
hitting
I'm
the nail on the head.
Which means that you feel the guilt is so strong that there's a part of you that doesn't want to accept it,
Yeah.
Oh,
that
okay,
still
yeah.
wants to be in denial of it,
Mhm.
that doesn't want to have to believe because it's way too painful to believe that you caused these deaths. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That it was your action that created the result in your fellow warriors losing their life,
Yeah.
right? So there's something there that is it's like
It's too painful.
it's
to
too
look at.
painful, right? So it's like, no, I can't see that. I don't want to accept it. I can't look at that, right? But
Again,
that's once
just
again
like-
subconscious.
Yeah,
It's
I already
not the
have
conscious mind.
that in
The
this
emotion kind
lifetime,
of-
hard time seeing difficult. Like it just can't
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
there. If that
Mhm.
makes
Yeah.
sense. So I
Mhm.
get it. I see what you're
Mhm.
saying.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's interesting when I look at that lifetime, I see you working really, really hard, proving yourself over and over again, and you were doing pretty good. So you were giving this one specific task, and it was kind of like your breakthrough to receive a certain honor or certain rank or certain status as a warrior, and you're like, wow, this is my chance, and I can do it. Like I felt like when you accepted that job, so to say, you felt really confident in yourself. You're like, yeah, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you failed, it was really traumatic because you didn't expect to fail. And as Jivananda's pointing out, seeing your colleagues die and feeling it's my fault because I didn't do my job right.
Like I didn't prepare enough. I didn't
Yeah, you made an error in judgment that seemed. What I'm getting is that it was kind of like very common. It was a very like common sense, basic battle technique. It was something like strapping the buckle on your horse's belt or something. It was a little more specialized than that, but it was something simple in the tactics of battle and combat that you were trained over and over that this is what you do in this situation, and for some reason you missed it. You didn't see it, you didn't catch it, and because of it, I'm seeing, I think we should test that you lost your life, which also might lead to a lot of confusion. I think that there was just a moment before you died where you saw, oh my God, no, how could, like it shocked you. It shocked you. I'm seeing like your horse like falling, and as you're falling off of your horse, you realize this sort of amateur error that you made, and you realize that you were now losing your life, and it meant also the life of the men who were behind you. And so I think we should just test, not about them, but like test on you, because you might have enough confidence to be able to test strong that you lost your life.
It's a birth name?
The birthing of this body is Betty Sue.
In the root lifetime, the root lifetime that created the belief that I'm inferior to my colleagues.
In the root lifetime that created the belief that I'm inferior to my colleagues.
I died in battle.
I died in battle.
Birth name?
The birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
Okay, so let's try it again now. In the root lifetime where I was a warrior and felt inferior to my colleagues, I was responsible for several of their deaths.
In the root time where I was inferior to my colleagues, I was responsible for several of their deaths.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're able to. Now you're like starting to get a little more familiar with it. You're being you're able to be a little more present and not like leave all of a sudden because it's like a shock to your awareness. Like, oh my God, you know what? And you're able to be a little more present with it, and that's what happens. is you're starting to acclimate to this information surfacing now. So you didn't actually die, which would make sense that you feel even more guilty.
Because you saw what happened.
Because somehow you survived and they didn't.
Yeah, let's test this. I still blame myself for this.
I still blame myself for this.
Birth name?
The birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
Yeah, you just flipped.
Flipped.
Wow.
Yeah, once again.
Come on, stay
And
with
so
it.
it's okay. It's okay because it's a process of bringing your consciousness, basically your subconsciousness, into your consciousness,
Yeah.
and so that you can be consciously present with what actually happened, and then that way you can uncover it, right? Because if you're not conscious of it, how long will it stay hidden?
Right, well, and I feel like it's
Infinite amount of
been
time.
a long time.
It has
So
been a long
yeah,
time.
yeah.
It's been thousands of years. is what I'm
Hard
getting.
to just show up. Okay, hey, what was your question? I mean, it feels like it's hard to show up from all that.
Well, yeah, and this is
Yeah.
also the
That
first
makes
time
sense.
that you've ever done this work ever,
Ever.
right? So you're
Yeah.
a complete newbie
Yeah.
to accessing your subconscious.
I am literally just I don't know.
You're
how to
just a
say-
Betty Sue walking
yeah.
off the street.
Yeah. But I'm also just like raw, you know, like it's just very raw and new and
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it. Just
Yeah, it's okay.
you ask me questions and I have what I think the answer should be, but my body has a totally different.
Yeah,
Different answer,
which is
yeah.
really amazing.
Yeah, which is I'm going through a little bit of noticing there's two, or there's a disconnect.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
there's all of a sudden some discernment coming in
Yeah, yeah.
between who
wait a
you
minute.
thought you were
I thought I
and
was
who you
just
are.
me. I thought I was just from April 24th, 1978. What's going on here? You know, like, so yeah, there's definitely some like acceptance of awareness that I was here before.
Yeah.
Which I flew with the captain who told me that I was an older soul, but I didn't understand more than that.
Yeah.
He just said he got that, and I didn't fly again, so I didn't.
You just got
do
that
any
one little
work.
seed, that was it. One
Yeah.
breadcrumb.
That's all.
Yeah.
Cool.
No, that.
Yeah.
So, good. The thing is that the moment that you flip on something and we can confirm that your birth name is no longer there, meaning you're not your birth name, that in and of itself is confirmation.
Wow.
We don't need to keep going back and testing the same thing to confirm it because that is a confirmation. If
Okay.
you flip it and your birth name now is no longer true, you've just confirmed that last statement that you still feel guilty for their deaths. That's the most tenderest thing that is creating this guilt, is that you feel guilty for people losing their lives, right?
But
You
you guys
feel
found that really fast.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
interesting.
relatively,
Yeah.
relatively, that we found out that
There's
the
so
guilt
many
is coming
scenarios that could have been.
from. Well, see, we see images when we close our eyes and we ask. I see images, right? I was immediately taken to a battlefield and I saw how you were given a task, right? And so that's the help. That's how powerful, you know, having an Akashic practitioner is to support you through the process. Is you can clear and get to the root of things a heck of a lot faster than if you could only muscle test,
Right, and not have the knowledge of past, you know, like
Yeah,
be
you can
able
have an
to.
experienced practitioner.
You look at
You
this
see the
lifetime,
same thing?
yeah. We often see the same thing. We tap into the same lifetimes. It was interesting because I saw you riding on a horse with a shield and a spear in your hand. And that's the moment Jivananda said, oh, I already found the lifetime. I got all the information. But like I said, I was like going back and forth between two different lifetimes, one in Greece during the Trojan War times, and one in Egypt. And like somehow they're connected. So which one do I need to access first? Because they felt really similar in their energy. Like you being a warrior with a specific, or like a soldier with a specific legion sent into some kind of battle, and it was like a specific strategy, a specific task force in both lifetimes.
And even in this lifetime, when you say that it was something that was tactical, that I knew better, that, you know, I could see myself, if that happened in this lifetime, struggling immensely with that, because I always by the book do exactly what I'm told, and then only go outside if that's not working, and I need to, you know, I'm so familiar with, like,
You
say,
wanna
flying
do it
the
right.
Chinook. Yes.
Yeah.
You want to do it
I
right,
wanna do it
based
right.
on what has been proven to be right.
Right.
Yeah.
But I know that I want to do it right because I'm being judged by my superiors, that if I didn't do it right, then I can be held accountable. In
So
ways
once
that-
again, all of that complex that you're experiencing right now in this lifetime, based on what you're sharing, is a recreation from this life, trying to make what went wrong in that life right. If that trauma had never taken place, your life would have been completely different in this lifetime.
Yeah.
You created an entire environment for you to be able to show up again and try to resolve what went wrong by doing it differently. But you can't resolve what went wrong by doing something differently in another lifetime. All you can do is find the forgiveness, right, of the healing, and recognize that what happened happened, and I need to forgive myself. I can't ever do anything differently that will change that, except for love and forgiveness to myself, right? So let's go back in.
And one more thing I want to share with you. You just said something really important. You said, if I don't do it right, my superiors will judge me. And what I was shown in that moment, it's not actually your superiors judging you, it's you judging yourself, because in the past you failed, and because you haven't forgiven yourself, you're actually judging yourself for the failure.
It just blew my mind, because I have always been told through every instructor, okay, how did you think today's flight went? And I was like, this went wrong. And they're like, well, no need to cover anything else. You saw more than I saw, you know? I've always been
Self-analytical.
Yeah.
And it came from this lifetime. Because now it was other people's lives that you were responsible for, and you could never forgive yourself, so you're holding yourself accountable by accepting the responsibility that you're the one who failed.
Yeah, which is interesting to me, because if I think back in the military this lifetime, I did not fail. Matter of fact, I was really naturally good at what I did. I don't understand why I was just naturally good at flying the helicopter. Like on day one, I hovered it, which was, this is not normal. My instructor found that unusual, and I found that unusual. But I was good at it. In this lifetime, I was good at it. I feel like professionally, I think personally, I'm not as good.
Well, typically you're usually good at the things that you've done before.
Wow.
And like we experienced the other night, I saw a lifetime, and specifically your last lifetime, that you also knew how to fly helicopters.
It's like
You
you
were a
just
pilot.
remembered. It's like you didn't sit down in that helicopter learning how to fly a helicopter. You sat down, you remembered how to fly a helicopter and a plane. It was so present from your previous lifetime that you just went right in.
Wow.
Yeah,
See,
it's
that's
amazing.
Not like saying that I've remembered that from something else makes sense. Because why is it that everyone else takes 8 weeks to learn to hover?
Yeah, or why is it
yeah.
that other people are born naturally profoundly good at certain things and other people cannot even touch it, right? Everybody has their own unique skill set, so to speak, you know? And why is that? Well, it's not that you all of a sudden are just all really good at that for some reason out of the blue. It's because you have experience with it and you're reconnecting with it yet once again. Why? Because you're trying to unlock pieces to your puzzle, your soul's puzzle. So you immediately go back to what you know, back to what you're good at, back to what you're comfortable with, in order to, it's like your subconscious does this, your soul guides you into these places. It's natural for your conscious mind to feel like this is what I want to do, but the soul's like trying to get you to solve your own mystery.
Yeah, because there's a desire. There's something there.
It wants it.
There's a desire.
You know
deep
this.
Desire for that.
To
Like,
go do that.
Like a lot of people who were young didn't know what they wanted to do with their lives, but I always have. Always.
Yeah.
There isn't a time that I can remember where I didn't know that I wanted to fly helicopters.
Yeah, you're convinced.
And I want to bring your attention to something else where you said I can only go so and so far, and then I have to start all over again. Which is the pattern from this lifetime where you went so and so far, and this was supposed to be your breakthrough. And in that breakthrough moment, you failed. You still blame yourself for it. You still judge yourself for it. You still haven't forgiven yourself for it. And then you died and were reborn and started it over in another lifetime. So that's kind of your pattern of like starting from scratch, getting to a certain point and starting over, starting from scratch and starting over.
I can
And
relate to that.
yeah, and not being able to
Wow.
go beyond the specific point, because an aspect of yourself is still at that point of that trauma in that lifetime, and you will not be able to go further until that trauma is resolved. It's kind of like you get to here and you cannot go further because it's a trauma that
And
is like
there's so
literally
much
putting up a
energy
wall.
that it took to get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right,
That
because
makes sense.
you're being fueled from that past wrong, wanting to make it right. And so you're pushing, in hopes that it'll finally be right. And
But
then
I
all of a
can't.
sudden, whoop, you can't do it. So what I want to see if we can do in this session is do like a lightning session. Lightning session meaning I want to go right to the root
Mm-hmm.
and right to clearing it and right to clearing what has blocked you from being able to go forward and see without spending too much time on any more details, because the details are fascinating for yourself and your own personal journey. But the reality is that what's most important is that we give you a clean slate around this particular topic, that you're able to neutralize this trauma, and we can muscle test you and show how quickly we're able to just flip it.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you're clear. You're clear on being able to move forward.
Sounds
You're clear on
impossible.
being. It does sound impossible. But
Yeah.
but you've already seen some things that
Yeah.
seem impossible as well. Now that's just your conscious mind speaking.
Mm-hmm.
We know from working with the subconscious that it's completely possible because you programmed your subconscious to operate this way, which then programmed your life to manifest in this way, to appear and create in this way. And so all we're doing is taking you right back to that program, and we're showing you how to rewrite it.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment you rewrite it, you'll see.
Mm-hmm.
So what I want to do is, can we test quick?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I feel like we can spend more time on details
Mm-hmm.
later. And what I really want to highlight is how swiftly and how accurately we can go right to the core, flip it and change it, and show how your program, your subconscious is now changed. And from there, life can be completely different moving forward.
Because you don't, you're getting out of the hamster wheel.
Yeah. So let's just pull you right out of it. So let's do let's calibrate really quick again with the birth name.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Birth name of this body.
The birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
The birth name of this body is Pink Dinosaur.
The birth name of this body is Pink Dinosaur.
Aww.
Mm-hmm.
That's already shifting.
In the lifetime that I was a warrior, and I felt responsible for the death of my men, I went to my head captain, who was in charge at the time, and renounced my role as a warrior.
You can also say what Jivananda said.
What Jivananda said.
Mm-hmm. I no longer felt worthy of being a warrior after I had failed to protect my men.
I no longer felt worthy of being a warrior after I failed to protect my men.
And so I willingly chose
Mm-hmm.
to step down from my position.
So I willingly chose to step down from my position.
Mm-hmm.
And I accepted that I was no longer worthy of being considered a warrior.
And I accepted that I was no longer worthy of being considered as a warrior.
I was no longer accepted as the title of my colleagues.
I was no, can't say it.
It's okay. Take a moment.
I was no longer, it's too hard to say
Yeah.
for some reason.
Yeah, because it started to surface that trauma.
Yeah.
So it's good. So just take a moment. Yeah.
Take a deep breath.
Mhm.
Move through. Good. Relax again. Good.
No rush here.
My arms are numb.
Yeah. You're boiling up, which means your DNA is changing.
Yeah, see how profound it is to be able to surface a past life trauma, right? That has no relevance to this life.
No relevance.
And be able to trigger such a profound
That was
emotional.
very weird.
Yeah.
That's not like, this is, I don't know how to explain it. So you know when you go through something traumatic and it hurts, you cry and it hurts. This was different. This came up.
Mm-hmm.
This was
Deep,
an
deep.
upward feeling that for some reason made the outside of my arms feel very numb and hot. It's not like, okay, I lost a family member, that's sad. This is something different I've never felt before, and that's why I'm probably having a hard time explaining to you guys.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
Like devastation.
like
It's a yeah, the
vomit,
trauma.
like it just came up.
Yeah.
It was a very weird feeling, like something my body has not ever felt before. And not being able to speak, like I literally could not.
Yeah.
Yeah, too traumatic to even
Yeah.
You had to tell me to
even
breathe.
confront that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
Good
really.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry to bring that energy on you
No,
guys.
no, you didn't bring it on us.
Not at all.
Okay.
We brought it on you. But the beautiful thing is that you equally brought it and we brought it together. We're all bringing this together, and this is the whole point of what we do. Right?
It's a
Is to be able
resolution.
to resolve the soul trauma.
Because you felt how deeply stuck down
Yeah.
it was, and how you're like, literally, I don't want to look at this. It's too painful. It's too traumatic. It's too much. I mean, you like stuffed it down, the coffee in the French
I
press.
ignored it.
Yeah.
And what
I
you said
laughed at it.
instead,
Yeah.
what you said instead was, I don't ever want to feel this again. I don't ever want to have to deal with this again. I don't want to ever have to experience or accept this again. What I'm going to do instead is do it differently and make sure that I never, ever fail in this way again. Which is why you've been so adamant and so hard on yourself to make sure that you followed every procedure, every policy, every rule, every guideline, every technique that you were supposed to.
Yeah.
And,
To the
and to
annoyance
ensure.
of everyone, including myself.
Yeah,
Because I had to.
Because otherwise,
Oh.
Thorough. Yeah.
you would be
Yeah.
going back against your own commitments and to never have to deal.
Like, I had a knee board that any tiny mistake I made, I wrote a list, and then at night I would look at that list and I would make sure I did not make that same mistake the next day, and
There
I
you go.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this
And
trauma.
nobody else that I knew did that. This is
Of
like,
course
I'm just
not.
a weird.
This trauma created that quality, that characteristic, that aspect. And can you see how painfully powerful that trauma is? If you put that in the context of a life that is just full of infinite energy, right? How that is going to magnetize every specific element that is related to that and bring it into a very personalized and refined context for you to embody.
Yeah.
This is how lives are created. This is how bodies are formed, how families are chosen, how locations are birthed into, right? Based on our traumas.
And it's
Based on our
interesting that
karma.
for me or my past life or what, like I'm even struggling with who I am right now.
Yeah. Good. That's a very
Okay,
good
so
thing.
I don't know how to identify, but that it's interesting to me that it was losing the title of, yes, it was hard to watch my fellow men die, but it was losing that association with them that was the most difficult.
Yeah, it was the
That
most
not being a
difficult.
part
I
of
was
that
no longer one of them.
brotherhood. Yes.
Yeah.
That I willingly renounced my title as one of them.
Because I'm such a person of integrity, I knew I couldn't be one of them. I
You
didn't
felt you
have-
no longer
yeah.
deserved it.
Yeah,
I no longer
exactly.
deserved it.
And in a
Yeah.
way, I also felt like, at the same time, you felt like, maybe there's a way I can prove myself worthy again. If I just study harder, if I just do it better, if I just become more thorough.
Yep.
And that's, and I feel like you've been doing that for many lifetimes, where you just come back as the student and you don't allow yourself to go further because
Oh.
I still can't do it well enough. It's still not 100% perfect. I'm still feeling
Failing.
like I might fail again.
Wow.
Let's study some more.
That's so interesting because I have been flying for almost 19 years and I've always found it interesting how some other people, like I love to teach, but I don't feel worthy enough or good enough. I feel like I need to keep learning. And I see people who have just got a couple years under their belt and they're comfortable with teaching people, and I'm like, but you don't know everything. What if you teach them something wrong? Like,
and then all of a sudden they kill their fellow man, and then you're going to feel the way I felt for the last 5,000 years.
Wow.
You don't want it.
That's interesting, because I've been told I would be a great instructor, but in myself I always stop myself from doing that.
Yeah,
Because you
didn't
don't
want
trust
it.
yourself. Or you didn't trust yourself because you're
You
like,
haven't been in a
maybe
place where
that
you
I
felt
will
good.
make a mistake again, and what if I teach them one wrong thing and then I put someone else's life into jeopardy that way. Wow.
And just like my niece, who was 4 years old and wanted to stay with Aunt Betty, and she woke up at 2 a.m. Aunt Betty, does Jesus love the devil? And I thought,
Oh, that's a powerful.
right, at 2 a.m. And so
Beautiful.
I had this little tiny New Testament that the Army gave me. I'm like, oh, it's small for her hands. And she opened it up. And she would ask me questions, and I felt like I wasn't smart enough or educated enough. Like, what's the word?
You needed to reference something
Yeah,
rather
because
than
I
use your
didn't
own
trust-
intuition.
But I knew my
Mhm.
intuition was like, she's like, what's this word, faith? And I knew immediately how I could describe that to her, but I felt like I wouldn't describe it the best way to her, and she would get misinformation, and it would be my fault.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So this is showing you
Weird.
how this trauma created this inability to trust your own authority, your own inner authority, right? And
Yeah.
and by renouncing being one of these soldiers, you renounced your inner authority. You said, I'm not worthy of this. I don't deserve this now. So
Then
let's
I'm
go back
lost.
into it.
Then
Let's
I'm
go
just
back
lost
into it.
if I'm not doing what I know, and I'm not. Wow.
Yeah, we spin around for countless lifetimes.
I'm always spinning, whether it's this way or that way. Like, okay, guys, help me be the the finger that sticks into the fan and stops it. Okay.
You're gonna get to the jacket
We're just
in a
gonna
moment.
teach
Oh,
you how
yeah.
to stick your own finger in there.
Okay, good.
All right.
Okay.
Ready?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Birth name?
The birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
Mm-hmm. Birth name of this body is Blue Palm Tree.
The birth name of this body is Blue Palm Tree.
Mm-hmm. No more pink dinosaurs.
I tried to be convincing and it didn't work. I tried to convince myself.
If I trust my inner authority, I will fail.
If I trust my inner authority, I will fail.
Very strong.
I don't deserve to be in a position of authority.
I don't deserve to be in a position of authority.
Birth name?
The birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm
the
a tough
choices.
one, aren't I?
See, the thing is that it doesn't, you know, the qualities of the human being, so to speak. There's only really one being. There's only one soul. There's only
Okay.
one consciousness, one mind, one heart,
Okay.
one energy. And so what we think is ours, right, or think is, you know, belongs to us, or that we've identified with, right, or that you're a tough scenario, or so on and so forth.
Yeah.
It's just consciousness in general.
I feel like
It's
it's
just the soul in general that just
trying to
belongs
stop
to
me.
it.
I feel like it's trying to stop me from healing myself. if that
Yeah,
makes
it's just layers. There's like,
Yeah.
think about it, it's like
Oh.
a callus.
Mhm.
It's like the flipping is you bumped into a callus. It's like, no, that's not true. I don't have to feel that. That's not true. What's your name? I don't know.
This is true. This is how I'm feeling.
It's just a
I
callus.
don't know.
It's a callus because if the callus is there, you don't have to feel the trauma that instigated such a deep feeling of pain surface through you. So let's go right back to the specifics again.
Yeah. And also, just real quick, you know, often we identify ourselves with certain energies, certain experience, like where, you know, that experience becomes us. Kind of how that trauma became you.
Yes.
And when we let go of that identity, we're like, who am I without this? So we often hold on to these, we call them the false identities, because we're so familiar with them, and we feel like, you know,
Yeah.
like it's so
I need to
comfortable.
feel
Yeah,
this, yeah.
And we don't
Even
know
if
who
it's
we
bad,
are.
that's
We
terrible.
call it secondary gain.
Mhm.
Okay.
Even if it's bad, there's still some sort of gain you're getting out of it.
Mhm.
So you hold on to that because it's better than having
Nothing.
to deal with this,
Right.
you know? And so we call it secondary gain, where we hold on to bad habits, right?
Mhm.
Or things that are harmful, you know, to us in order to deal with not having to deal with what we feel is worse.
Yeah.
So let's go right back into it and cover just a little bit more.
Okay. The birth name?
The birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
The birth name of this body is Barney Rubble.
The birth name of this body is Barney Rubble.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad my subconscious is willing. You know? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like when it.
I don't think the subconscious is willing or not willing. It just kind of is a store bank of memory. It doesn't really know what it doesn't. It's not really aware.
It doesn't judge.
It's not aware. Yeah, it doesn't judge because it's not aware of what it's aware of,
Yeah.
and it's not aware of what it's not aware of.
Yeah.
It just is holding what it holds.
Yeah, it's not
It's
saying,
more
okay,
like
what I'm holding is bad or what I'm holding is good. It's just like,
It's
I'm holding this.
It doesn't have an
Okay.
operator.
Yeah.
It's just a system that holds the storage of the memory of the hard drive that
Yeah.
you've programmed with it.
I guess it's more than I'm glad it, has memory. It has the ability. It's smart. It's strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're grateful for is that your conscious mind can access your
That's
memory.
what I'm
Yeah,
grateful
yeah.
for.
Conscious mind is able to go into that store
Like
bank
climbing up.
and start to pull out that program that's in there.
Even
and,
though
and
they're
rewrite
very
it.
separate.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So what did you want to test?
So I want to test that in the lifetime where I was a warrior, you can just say that,
In the lifetime where I was a warrior,
I renounced my role
I renounced my role
because I was no longer worthy of being called a warrior that was equal to my fellow warriors.
because I was no longer worthy of being called a word that was equal to my fellow warriors.
Mhm.
That's very strong.
Good.
Mhm.
Okay. I made a promise to myself
I made a promise to myself
that I would never fail again.
that I would never fail again.
Mhm.
And in order to never fail again,
And in order to never fail again,
I gave up my personal authority.
I gave up my personal authority.
Mhm.
And I have remained subservient to authorities outside of myself ever since.
And I have remained subservient to authorities outside of myself ever since.
In order to protect others from me.
In order to protect others from me.
Others know better than I do.
Others know better than I do.
If I trust myself, people will die.
If I trust myself, people will die.
Yeah, there's something there, yeah. It's not super something.
That's not super strong?
No. If I trust myself, others will be harmed.
If I trust myself, others will be harmed.
Yeah, that's a strong one.
Okay.
Mhm.
If I believe in myself, that belief will lead to others being killed.
If I believe in myself, that belief
Will lead to others being killed.
others being killed.
I have to prove myself worthy before I can ever assume a position of authority.
I have to prove myself worthy before I can ever assume a position of authority.
Mhm.
Check this out. I have to suffer.
I have to suffer.
I have to suffer to redeem myself.
I have to suffer to redeem myself.
I haven't suffered enough.
I haven't suffered enough.
There's more suffering to do before I can forgive myself.
There's more suffering to do before I can forgive myself.
No,
Well-
that's yeah. Before there's
I
more
assume maybe she's ready to forgive herself.
Yeah, look at you. And just also know that this is just a belief that we're covering, that there's more suffering you need to do in order to feel like
It's a
what
belief.
it's what I
It's the program,
My
it's
subconscious
not the
yeah,
truth.
these are the truth,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's why it was.
Mhm.
Let's test
Yeah.
that I need to be punished.
I need to be punished.
I need to punish myself.
I need to punish myself.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good enough. So we're going to lead you through a little bit of an exercise.
Okay.
So what we've uncovered is that the subconscious mind and the conscious mind needs to be able to witness the change in order for the pattern to be broken.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that's been discovered through quantum.
Yeah, it's a lot
Quantum
of
physics.
quantum physics that in order for something to become real, you need to witness it. Like you need to witness that new
To
reality.
really believe it.
And to also like see it, to visualize it.
Okay.
To see it in your mind's eye that, oh, now it's no longer there. This is the transformation that has happened.
Okay.
So by you witnessing a clearing process, for example, you're becoming a witness to this new reality that you are creating. A reality where these old beliefs and the suffering and the oath to punish yourself is no longer present.
That I wasn't even aware of.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this witnessing is actually the reprogramming of the subconscious.
Okay.
When you witness what it is that you are basically doing, which in this exercise we're going to take you, you're going to witness forgiveness taking place. You're going to witness healing taking place, and you're going to witness the resolution of this entire conflict that is going to resolve all of it, right? We're going to guide you through a visualization where you're going to witness all of that. So that witnessing is the key into being able to reprogram, to delete the program that you've held and to replace it with the new expression. And you'll notice that your natural state of being is worthy. Your natural state of being is respected, it's loved, it's worthy, it's all these things. You don't really need to replace it. All you need to do is clear out the false belief, is what we call it, or the limiting belief, or the limiting identity, is that we call it. And you'll notice that the original identity is already there.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to guide you through a little bit of a visualization here for you to be able to witness the reprogramming of your subconscious mind. Mm-hmm.
And the letting go of these contracts, like the
Mhm.
contract to punish yourself, the contract to suffer, the contract to, study until you get it perfect, but you haven't been able to get it perfect, at least according to your beliefs.
Okay.
So we're gonna clear that.
Oh, that sounds.
That's all right.
I'm really glad you guys are here.
Sounds deep.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so I'm going to guide you through a visualization process. I just basically want you to close your eyes and start to take a nice few deep breaths through your nose, out through your nose, and just relax into your body. And I want you to visualize your heart space. And as you visualize your heart space, I want you to see this sort of golden sphere of light that is the entire heart space. It kind of fills your chest around your heart. And what I want you to do is I want you to visualize that golden light sending a beam of light down from your heart space through your abdomen, and you can see it split and go off into both legs. So there's a beam of golden light going down both of your legs, traveling down your quads and down through your shins and down your feet. And as it comes out your feet, I want you to see this golden beam of light start to branch off in a dozen different directions coming out of each leg. It's like veins, like roots of a tree starting to root down into Gaia. And as it goes down into Gaia, it continues to spread out, it continues to grow more and more in all directions, like you literally are seeing these golden roots begin to deepen and go further into Gaia's surface. And then what I want you to do is visualize the center of the earth as this cavern. It's like a cave, and inside of it is perfectly quiet and silent. There's like the sound of Gaia's heartbeat. And there's many visualizations you can do, but what I would like you to do is just visualize this beautiful red rose energy. And so you're seeing yourself navigating down below the surface of Earth, going off in multiple directions as these roots of light. And all of a sudden, the roots of light get so deep down that they pop out into this cavern. And what you experience is this warm, welcoming, heartbeat center space of love with this deep red rose energy right in the center. And what you can feel is this is the divine mother, goddess of Gaia, Earth. And in that womb space, you can just feel her unconditional love. You can feel that her heart beats for every living creature on this planet, no matter how small in the form of a bacteria or how big. You can feel that her heart beats, and as it beats, she pulses life force frequency up from that heart space into the roots of every living creature. She pumps that unconditional love into the forests, into the trees, into the plants. She pulses it and vibrates it through the rock and the stones and all the way through the entire planet. And you can feel that that unconditional love is also being pulsed up into your roots. You feel very strong. You feel very protected. You feel very looked after. And you also feel very grateful for having such a beautiful, conscious creation of Mother Gaia here to support your living being. You feel this love she has for you, pulsing through your veins, through your roots. So I want you to just take one last moment and give thanks to this beautiful, deep, rich, heart space, rose energy from Mother Gaia, seeing and feeling and witnessing her unconditional consciousness of love for all beings and all life. And then I want you to navigate your consciousness, taking that awareness and that rooting, that grounding, and that love up, taking that consciousness and awareness up through these golden roots that you have, but keeping those roots in place. It's just like information, navigating back up those roots and coming back up through the surface of the earth and into your feet and through your legs and go back up to your heart space. And the moment that it hits your heart space, you feel that beautiful red rose energy starts to illuminate inside of your heart space, and you feel the connection that the physical being and the physical body of being on earth holds an unlimited energy of unconditional love from Gaia. And I want you to just see that rose deposit into that heart space that you're holding inside of your body and your being. And then I would like you to bring your awareness back to the heart space. And I want you to bring your energy up. I want you to see a golden beam of light begin to rise up and move up through your chest and up through your chin and up through your brain. And I want you to see the crown, the tip of your skull open and a beam of light go up. And as it goes up and out of your body and shoots like a comet up into the atmosphere, and then out of the Earth's atmosphere and penetrate into space like a firework, like just explodes as it reaches outer space. And I want you to feel that cosmic consciousness that exists in the space, that stillness, that peace, and that infinite energy that goes in all directions, unlimited. And I want you to feel that cosmic consciousness that exists in space, that there's an infinite number of galaxies and planets and energy in all directions. And I want you to see this as this cosmic, divine consciousness. And inside of that consciousness, inside of that infinite space, is the blueprint to all of these infinite galaxies, planets, and life forms everywhere. It's like the star seed blueprint that this consciousness has infinite images, ideas, awareness, and energy that is seeding life everywhere. And I want you to connect with this as a masculine quality of cosmic consciousness. The seed or blueprint of life, the divine design. And just feel how infinite it is and how expansive and free it feels to kind of perceive that energy in every direction. And then I want you to visualize like a beautiful blue field of light that symbolizes that divine design, that divine blueprint, that cosmic consciousness that kind of carries the seed of information, of thought in all of it. It's almost like a blue brain that has these electrical blue veins, a field of light that's kind of firing inside of this sphere. And I want you to bring this beautiful cosmic consciousness, blue sphere of light. I want you to see it start to descend down into the atmosphere of planet Earth, and down to where it's hovering just above your crown. And you see that beautiful blue field start to enter inside of your body and deposit this beautiful blue cosmic consciousness divine design inside of your heart space. And that is the divine masculine, or father sky, so to speak. And I want you to see that blue father sky energy and kind of red Mother Earth energy unify in the center of your heart. And as they unify, bringing down the cosmos and bringing up creation, Earth, I want you to imagine the point where they completely overlap, all of a sudden the bright white starlight energy appearing. We call it the divine diamond. And that divine diamond is the eternal awareness of the union of the cosmic consciousness and creation unified into one field. It sees that creation came from the cosmic consciousness, and the cosmic consciousness seeded creation, which creation then gave birth to that consciousness in form. It's the father and the mother. It's the masculine and the feminine. It's the god and the goddess unified in the center of your heart. And the divine white diamond appears as your eternal perspective, witnessing this taking place not only in creation and in the cosmos and on planets, but within inside the center of your being. You perceive this union taking place. And that union is witnessed by this divine diamond, pure white light, illuminating in the center of your heart space. Now this divine diamond symbolizes the extension of source that your consciousness as an individual soul has been perceiving. And that as this divine perspective, this eternal embodiment and awareness of self, it realizes that this is your true identity. That you live as a perspective, witnessing the union of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, the consciousness and creation and union together. That your true identity witnesses this, that it has no gender, that it has no true form, that awareness has been moving as the aspect of your eternal soul through all the different lifetimes that you ever had, perceiving whatever is there. And so this awareness is not attached to seeing anything happen or not anything happen. It just witnesses what's taking place. So from this awareness, I want you to utilize the divine diamond and this eternal perspective of your true self. Navigate, and I want you to see this beautiful field of white light emanating from the center of that heart space, surround your entire body in this field of white light. It's illuminating your entire being in the awareness of its eternal truth, knowing that it exists beyond male and female, and even beyond the human body and the human mind and the human emotions. It exists as a pure consciousness, perceiving everything. So as your body is completely illuminated in this white field of light emanating from the divine diamond within your heart center, I want you to visualize it lifting up your body. And as it lifts up your body, you start to pop up and out of Earth's atmosphere. Like you're just hovering in this beautiful white silver field of light, looking down at the Earth. And now what I want you to do is to visualize going back down into Earth, but would you go back down to the lifetime where you were the warrior. And I want you to visualize this little tent in the forest. And I want you to zoom in and start to descend down to that tent. And before you enter that tent, I want you to look down from this perspective of being in this field of white light. And I want you to see yourself like peeking in on that tent, and you can see the human form that you held in that lifetime, which I'm sensing you were a man. And you can also see your superior who's in that tent. He was also a man. And you can see that you're engaged in the communication where you feel you failed. Yeah, go ahead and just feel that for a moment. Now it's important to realize that there's two aspects of yourself here in this vision. One is this eternal perspective, hovering above the tent, looking down. And the other is you standing there in that lifetime. But you standing there in this light, in that lifetime that feels responsible, that feels traumatized by this, is not actually your truth. It's just the projection of the idea of who you thought you were. That the true you is floating above the tent in the pure white light. And it has no attachment to that lifetime. It realizes that what we call the lower self below you, standing on earth, was just simply one lifetime, holding one story of who it thought it was. And that identity experienced this trauma. But from looking down from this place of this beautiful field of white light and seeing him standing down there in front of his kernel, so to speak, you can realize that what your soul, what that embodiment deserves is love, is the infinite light of love and the infinite light of truth, realizing that that is not your truth, that is not who you really are. Who you really are is this pure white light that is hovering above as the extension of eternal source that has been in all these different lifetimes. And the reason it's able to continue going through lifetime after lifetime after lifetime is because it belongs to none of it. It's actually free. Can you feel the freedom that this white eternal form carries, and that all of the pain and trauma that was experienced is being held with the form below on the earth? So what I want you to do is I want you to see yourself hover down now next to that form. And I want you to turn and face it as the divine perspective, glowing in the beautiful field of white light, eternally protected in the divine light of love. And I want you to turn to that self and say, it was not your fault. You didn't know who you really were. You didn't know me. You didn't know this aspect of your eternal self that illuminates the light of love through all lifetimes and is not limited to anything. You didn't know how infinite that you were. Instead, you got caught in an idea of believing that you were this man, that you were that body, and that you were that failure that you experienced. But I'm here to tell you that that is not your truth. And I want you to see you sort of raise your hand and you're illuminated in that white light and touch the chest of that wounded man standing there. And I want you to touch his chest and see the illumination of that beautiful divine white light coming from the heart center. Go into him. And I want you to start to infuse him with that healing light energy, saying, I release you. And I forgive you. I forgive you for not knowing your true nature. I forgive you for not understanding that you are so much more than this limited idea of a man. That what you are is a cosmic consciousness of divine light and eternal love. And I'm here to remind you of that. And so I want you to just continue to place now both of your hands upon that embodiment of the man and begin to infuse him with so much light until you see him begin to become transparent. And you forgive him for feeling as if he failed. And let me know when you see so much light illuminate in him that he becomes glowing with white light as well. Just take a moment. Just keep infusing him and reminding him of his divine eternal truth. And feel the lightness of the eternal soul and the freedom of that pure white form completely illuminated. Take a moment. And forgive him. And tell him that you forgive him. I forgive you.
Allow him to receive that energy. Allowing him to receive that love from the eternal self, knowing that you don't have to do anything in order to deserve that love, that it is your divine birthright to have that now. And the only thing you have to do is just allow it to happen.
Just let it
Allow
open.
yourself to receive it.
And from the perspective of that divine white light, I want you to say out loud to him, I forgive you.
I forgive you.
So take a moment and now send white light into his being.
He's gone.
He's gone? Okay, good. So now just tune back into the pure, it's like angelic. It's like if you lift your hands in that white form, it's like you can float anywhere. You can float through any form. You can float through the tent. You can float through the trees. You can float through a battle. You're just pure white light. Now I want you to float up to the general And I want you to just say, General, I'm communicating to you from my eternal self that I forgive you for believing that this was your truth, of being this man that you sit here to be. And I want you to know that I forgive myself and I release myself from ever feeling limited to this lifetime alone, because this lifetime is not my truth. It never was my truth. I just didn't know. Communicate that for a moment to him. And then I want you to ask him, say, I would like you to produce the contract that I signed in order to sign up for that warrior position. I didn't sign up for it, my lower self signed up for it, but he's no longer here because I've dissolved him in eternal light and love now. So I'm here as his adversary to deal with this. So please put the contract that lower aspect of self signed in order and made the vow to be the warrior. And I want you to visualize your superior in that life, the general, putting a contract on the table. And it was just your enrollment contract where you vowed to become. You see him set it down there. There's like a seal on it that is official. And you look through it and it's like, okay, I vow to protect and uphold and do all these different things, and I give my service to this particular group. And then you look at it, you see on the lower left-hand side, you see that the signature of your lower self signed it. And then you look to the right side and you see that the bottom right corner is actually blank. And I want you to visualize a golden cosmic pen to appear in the hand of your divine eternal white illuminated light self. And I want you to just visualize the soul signature of that eternal white light. Sign the bottom right hand corner of that contract and say, this contract is now complete. I resolve and dissolve all connections and ties to the identity of being this individual. As a representative of my eternal truth, I now communicate that this is no longer my truth as a soul. And just see your signature appear at the bottom right in gold. And I want you to see that contract dissolve now. Returning to that pure white light, eternal aspect of self. Fuse the eternal light into that energy. Feel that contract dissolve. See yourself standing in front of the general and he's like, got nothing. There's nothing there. And you're like, oh yeah, okay, I know there's nothing there because there was never actually anything ever here. And I think Kristie has one more piece that she wants to share before we get into the soul
Soul lesson,
lesson.
So, while So just, keep your eyes closed and stay in that space with me, because we need to resolve one more contract in order to bring that part to completion. And it is the contract that has kept you in that energy of shame and blame, and also a feeling of rejection from the masculine, or an aspect of the masculine. And what I was shown is that your father was part of the military in that lifetime. And your father was a very strict person, and he had really high expectations for you. And you wanted to make your father proud, because you felt if you were able to become successful and fulfill his expectations, that is when your father would love you, finally. Because he could never show love to you. He wasn't like a person with, whose heart was open to tell you he loved you.
Yeah, he didn't respond to love, he responded to success.
Exactly.
To action.
To action. So,
achievement.
So as a young boy, you worked really, really hard, and even when you received your warrior training, you worked really, really hard to do it well. And you felt like with this task you were given, you would finally make your father proud, and he would finally tell you he loved you. And then you felt you failed. And you felt so ashamed about that failure that you couldn't face your father, you couldn't face your family any longer. And what needs to be resolved is that contract with your father, the contract that you need to please him, the belief that you need to prove yourself in order to finally receive the love that that little boy within you so desperately wanted. So I want you to imagine yourself in that higher aspect, that higher self, that iridescent, beautiful aspect of yourself, going to your father in that lifetime. The father you made the contract with to fulfill any of his expectations in order to receive love.
The father whose approval you were seeking ever since you were a young boy, and you felt you could only receive from achieving everything that he had wanted of you. So once again, visualize that beautiful, divine, from the heart source center, divine diamond light illuminating your eternal aspect of self, and feeling the freedom of that eternal soul, and float up to that father, and see the little boy that was the form of yourself standing in front of your father saying, "Yes, Father, I will obey your orders. I will follow in your footsteps. I will
do whatever you ask me to do.
Listen to you. I will obey your wishes." And I want you to see that little boy standing there looking up to that father. And I want you to touch him on the shoulder in the form of your eternal, divine, white light self, and have him look at you and say, "Hey, look over here, buddy." And as he looks at you, he's kind of like surprised by the beauty and the light that's emanating from you. He's mesmerized all of a sudden by the form that you are in front of you. And you say, "All you were ever looking for was me. Because I am the aspect of you that is eternally connected to the Divine Father, to the Divine Masculine, and to the Divine consciousness of all creation. I am that eternal essence of light and love and oneness. And you were looking for me. And I want you to see that form of your eternal self, infuse him like you did before, that little boy. You start to just infuse him with white light until all of a sudden he starts to become transparent as well. He was just looking for acceptance. He was looking for acknowledgement. He was looking for something that was outside of him, not realizing the power of the infinite energy within him. He didn't know. It was innocence that made him look outside of himself. So when he's infused with enough light, I want you to just hug him, that little boy, hug him into your cosmic self, and dissolve that little boy who is looking for approval. Dissolve him in the infinite light of love, of consciousness and truth that is eternal, that never needs anything, because it already is everything, and it knows it forever. See him dissolve into you, and feel him release the separation, the sadness, in love. Just keep feeling that white light infusing him, telling him it's okay, you just didn't know.
Yeah, when you journey, especially because you were journeying for more than an hour, and even the muscle testing before, it feels like your spirit can feel like, oh, I'm not really here yet, I'm not fully grounded. So it's good just to visualize yourself grounding in, visualize energy coming out through the bottom of your feet and going to the earth, or also just like eat something, drink some water, move, breathe, like anything physical to get you back into your body.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Sweet.
have some banana cake.
So, let's do the final test and see what beliefs have been cleared.
I wish I could tell you, but I don't know.
Let's see, you will tell us in a moment. So say the birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
The birth name of this body is Betty Sue.
The birth name of this body is Pink Dinosaur.
The birth name of this body is Pink Dinosaur.
Good. So do you want to start with the ones we started with? Which is about the being inferior. I can't remember.
Yeah, let's do this. I feel inferior to my colleagues, because that was the first one.
Right. I feel inferior to my colleagues.
There's no more energy in them. Shh. And someone is so excited that these waves cleared. Right?
It feels my clearing energy, huh?
I'm not worthy to receive love.
I'm not worthy to receive love.
I am worthy to receive love.
Wow. I am worthy to receive love.
Look at that.
Oh,
I'm pulling really
wow.
hard.
I am equal to my colleagues.
I am equal to my colleagues.
I have to suffer to redeem myself.
I have to suffer to redeem myself.
Oh, look at that. I forgive myself.
I was fighting too on that.
Ah.
Yeah.
I forgive myself.
I forgive myself.
Good.
Let's do this. I need to renounce my title in order to resolve my wrongdoing.
I need to renounce my title in order to resolve my wrongdoing.
I need to punish myself for failing to protect my men.
I need to punish myself for failing to protect my men.
There's like nothing.
Nothing's
I blame myself for, what was it? I blame myself for making a mistake when I was leading my troops.
I blame myself for making a mistake. I blame myself for making a mistake when I was leading my troops.
I think that.
So let's test this now. I need to receive the approval from the masculine.
I need to receive my approval from the masculine.
Nothing left.
I carry my own personal authority of self.
I carry my own personal authority as self.
I trust myself.
I trust myself.
I believe in myself.
I believe in myself.
I am worthy
I am worthy
of this self.
of this self.
Let's test a couple of things that you shared, how they have shown up in your life in the past. There's a limit to how far I can go in my career.
There's a limit to as far as I can go in my career.
My colleagues at my job are always going to be better.
My colleagues at my jobs are going to be better.
I am good enough.
I am good enough.
I am enough.
I am enough.
I can succeed in going farther in any direction that I choose.
I can succeed in going farther than any direction, in any direction that I choose.
I am free to follow what my I want to say, what your heart desires. I'm free to follow what my heart desires.
I'm free to follow what my heart desires.
I trust my own inner guidance.
I trust my own inner guidance.
That's probably pretty good. Is there anything you can come up with?
You may have already said that I deserve love. Wow.
Very good.
My mind is blown right now. Truly.
You just reprogrammed your subconscious
And
patterns
I thought
around.
it would take far much more. Well, even though we were there for so
Even
long that
though
I
we
didn't
were-
realize it, I thought years, months.
Yeah.
And that is kind of what I said to you, because we looked at the foundation. We didn't just go like one twig at a time or leaf over here. We went right into the roots and we pulled the foundation to the experiences you have been having, the beliefs and the programs and the patterns you have. And when you pull the foundation, you don't have to go through the different layers. You go right to the root of it.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
For the knowledge and not putting me through.
Let's see how
But
many
there's
lifetimes
some-
have you done this?
Yeah, the ability to have the knowledge to go right.
Yeah,
right
we've
to the
definitely
source. Thank you.
cultivated
Yeah.
technique, through these years that we've been doing it, how to speed up the process, how to be more effective in blasting through the timeline. You start at the root and then you bring it to this lifetime, and once you connect the root and the current life, you can blast all the lifetimes in between, because they have no anchor. It's like a rope. This is the anchor, this is the anchor, it's pulling tight here. So they all exist and seem to be true, but once you pull this anchor, it's like
Everything in the
It's
middle,
gone.
yeah, it's gone.
I am so
That's
grateful
power.
for you both. I am beyond grateful for you both. You've given me more than just this time, like the projection of my life from here on. I feel confident, strong, deserving. I feel like I can do this and not alone.
Yeah. Yes,
Thank you.
You're
Right?
very welcome. Yeah, it's unbelievable, uncovering these limiting ideas that we told ourselves to be true, and what the reality is that we don't know our true nature. And so because of that, we don't realize how powerful we are to make one promise, one commitment, one oath, one vow, one anything, and have it remain in place until we come back and clear it, or until some energy of the divine is potent enough to clear it for us, right? It remains throughout limitless lifetimes. And so the whole concept of this work, the foundation, is realizing the truth of your whole beingness and the power that it holds to create an uncreate reality, to create an uncreate identity, that any identity that was created outside of the wholeness of your being is an illusion, it's a fragment, it's a fraction, it's just a tiny
That
piece.
was what was interesting, it was just a little
tiny piece
Yeah.
that then lives on thinking that this is all that it is. And so all these lifetimes that we've ever lived is a series of rejecting all of these other aspects of ourself until we come down to this like little tiny toothpick and say, okay, this is who I am. It's like this comet of cosmic self blasts through the atmosphere of Earth and gets blasted and stuck into the ground. And the moment it gets stuck into the ground, we're like, whoa, and it's like that fall from consciousness, that we descend from that expression of our more of our cosmic celestial form, our eternal truth, and we get stuck into one tiny finite identity. And then we walk around for however many lifetimes thinking we're that, until we finally start realizing, hey, I'm not limited to just that. And you start to, once again, like I was sharing, find the leaps and bounds until all of a sudden you realize your cosmic nature fully, truly, physically again. You can blast off like the comet that you were when you arrived.
When we went through and I came back, I was light-footed. I bounded to the tent. And that's when I, and then I really enjoyed, it felt warm to free the father, free the general, free the child. It was more difficult to free little Betty.
A little Betty, yeah.
But the others, seeing their light and then seeing them shine was incredible. Yeah.
Well, Betty, we just want to say well done. Thank you so much for being here and allowing us to share this work with you.
Yeah.
It's going to be a great gift for hopefully many others to witness and experience as
I
well.
hope so, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, you guys. Seriously. Wow.
And there's one more thing I want to leave you with, because our words create our reality. And you've just created a new reality for yourself. So certain patterns have shown up in the past. So as you're moving forward, sometimes a pattern might just come up one more last time to see if you got it, if you got the lesson before it disappears. So what I want to invite you in when these patterns, when you remember the patterns, how they showed up in the past, communicate them as the past, as no longer valid, as no longer present. Instead of saying, oh, it always happens, that's always how it has been, or it can only go so and so far, because if you communicate them like this, you can recreate certain beliefs again. So be very conscious when, how you're communicating, what you're saying about yourself and about your life. And then
just release it as well.
Just release it,
That was the past.
That was the past, exactly. Or if you catch yourself saying something limiting, especially in relationship to what we just cleared, you can say, perish the thought, cancel, 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 delete, 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 like say it right away.
Okay.
So it's not becoming a new program within your subconscious mind. It's kind of like, oh, I just typed this on my computer, I'm gonna press delete 3 times, or just gonna, just like cancel the whole thing, so that program is not even in my subconscious computer mind.
Will do. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
If it came up again, I wouldn't know what to do. So
Yeah, it's just like, it's a conscious language where, where we're needing to learn how to express the things, like who we are differently. Like, no, now I'm now someone else. I have changed, I have transformed, and this is who I am now. And then, speak it into reality, walk it into reality.
Okay. Wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Wow. This is just